Talk about breakfast later. Don't mean to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second. Jerry got it.
Then Corey deferred to Terry. Move to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Is there anybody here from the public who'd like to speak to something not on the agenda? Seeing none?
No, there's one.
Yes. You just have to step up to the mic and state your name and your address for us.
My name is Tonda Hill. My address is 619 North Ren. That's in Lawrence, Kansas, 66049. And I'm here because I'm running for the Douglas County District Attorney's position. And I just wanted to meet with you all, see what's going on in your meetings, and just let you all know that I believe Baldwin City has a say. You're part of Douglas County, and I'm trying to make sure I'm extending myself to the different cities to let them know I am running, and I definitely want to try to earn the vote any type of way in engaging with your community. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Anybody else like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, special reports, Douglas County MPO.
Hello, may I approach? I have, thank you.
Got pictures of it.
Bedtime reading. Good evening. I'm Jessica Mortinger, and I'm the Transportation Planning Manager for the Lawrence Douglas County Metropolitan Planning Organization. Our organization is responsible for multimodal transportation planning throughout Douglas County and all of the communities, and we have worked on this mission for a number of years. This is the second time that we have worked in all of the communities in Eudora, Baldwin City, and Lecompton to prepare an update to the regional pedestrian plan. And through that work, we do a planning process to engage stakeholder representation in your communities, and work through some surveying and best practice review to make a list of recommendations to share with you around improvements we believe to help the pedestrian environment. You have been very successful at being awarded transportation alternative grants from the Kansas Department of Transportation. And one of the things they recognize is this plan as the official plan from the MPO region for pedestrian work. And so we hope that the adoption of this plan by the MPO and your receipt of this plan helps future initiatives you may want to take in pursuing investments in the pedestrian environment. We believe that people of all ages and abilities should be able to navigate, whether that's for recreation or transportation throughout their communities, and do so safely, whether they're walking, biking, or driving. So one of the things we do in this process on page 26 is we look at a sidewalk inventory in your community, recognizing both some of the recently completed elements and pending elements that we know are to be completed. And then we make recommendations about recognizing there's limited resources in terms of implementing gap infill. You'll see from feedback in your community that condition of the sidewalk or busy streets without sidewalk or gaps were the three top barriers that people who responded from Baldwin City indicated are issues of concern. And so recognizing there's limited resources, we put together what we call a priority network. That's coordinated with the Safe Routes to School planning that we also do to say if you're going to implement pedestrian improvements, these are the places where we feel like you could get a priority network. And that is represented on page 28. In the yellow section, so you can kind of see what that looks like based on our recommendations. You're not obligated to implement these on any time frame. This is really just serves as a framework to you. Obviously, the network is one component of that, but we encourage you to also continue to work on your rail to trail corridor, your safe routes to school connections, and other elements of programming that support pedestrian-friendly environments. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have about this. The MPO Policy Board adopted this plan, and so it is the regional pedestrian plan, and I'm happy to share it with you so we can continue to advance this work throughout Douglas County.
I don't have any questions. Any other council members have any questions? Thank you guys for all your work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next is new business. So we did find out that one of our planning commissioners fell outside the 3-mile radius requirement, or that we had a requirement for 3-mile radius, so he had to step off and had to find a new replacement. So Dan Elder has agreed to be the recommended appointment to the planning commission to replace that outside the city requirement on that position. Dan, if you want to come up and introduce yourself, council can ask.
Yep, Dan Elder, I've been a lifelong resident of the Baldwin community and recently retired, so I thought I would enjoy giving back to the community and volunteering a little work, see Baldwin City thrive the way it's been.
Any questions for Dan? All right.
How's your puppies?
We're doing
Knew
good.
that was coming.
4 weeks old.
How many you want?
Yeah.
At what price?
Well, if you buy multiple, it's just discount.
Yeah.
Both discount. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Council discussion?
Is there a distance that the person has to be in that particular category?
3 miles.
Is that what it is?
They have to live outside the city, for this position, they have to live outside the city limits, but within 3 miles.
I'm not trying to stop this, I was working on the information.
That's 2 of our positions have to have that requirement. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Dan Elder to the planning commission.
Okay.
Moving and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thanks, Dan. Next, council committee reports, budget finance, Scott.
We did meet last Friday, and the entirety of the meeting was spent taking a look at our electric utility performance and projected performance for the rest of the year. And we have better news to report, but we do have a significant cash flow gap. We talked about last time that reviewing the PCA formula, which we've done, we tweaked it. You saw the first reading, we bring the second reading back. It's a tweak that will help somewhat, but doesn't fix the problem. So more work needs to be done. We all need to put our heads together and figure out, what the gap is, projected for the rest of the year. And as we've done before, we got to put together a plan to get the reserve fund, back to healthy over a extended period of time. The plan is to have a workshop next Tuesday, 7 p.m. to cover this, share everything we've learned, provide some options about what we can do going forward. But the reality is, and you'll see, is that we haven't raised our rate for 14 years. And common sense is, how can you do that with prices going up, inflation over those years? Well, we had built in a reserve that we've used, and with the rapid increase that we saw, and we'll show the data at the end of COVID, or during COVID kind of blew past the reserve. Prices went up, and we did not enact a rate increase. We should have done that probably this year at the latest, at the beginning. We didn't do the inflation increase or anything. So the bottom line is, we're behind the curve when we should have raised our rates. to keep up with the cost of running that utility. So we've got to catch up, which is not good news. I think part of that also, we want to make sure we are looking at, are we being as efficient as possible? We do have new contract up, GRDA is up at the end of 25, a little into 26, but there will be some options there to potentially, I won't say get better rates, but maybe not grow as fast, as we've seen, inflation happen. So, there's a inflection point there that we'll have to make a decision on. Stay with them. I think we're going to hear some proposals tonight that they brought forward in executive session. So that's something we'll have to kind of bake into our plan is what do our current contracts allow us to do, and then what would a new contract do, the GRDA is proposing or something else? How does that then impact our rates? So long story, but there's a lot of work going into this, and we'll share all that and hopefully get it to a point where you can kind of quickly see what's going on, and then we'll have to figure out, maybe bring some options. That we're going to meet again on Friday. We'll bring some options of here's some things we think we could do. Any questions, Corey or Casey? Anything else on that?
No, I think you hit it good.
Do you have any idea of what percentage, how far percentage we're behind in 14 years?
Yeah, we don't know exactly yet. It looks anywhere from 10 to 15. But that could be high depending on what we do with some other funds in the budget, and how quickly we want to catch up, right? We don't need to necessarily, depending on what we have in reserve, get to the top of our fund policy, reserve fund policy at the end of this year. So we can probably do less than that. But we're going to be looking at, again, we'll be talking about rate increases for the rest of this year. Probably need to start in July, unfortunately, and then something next year. And then with the 26th thing, what that might look like. So we're going to really look at the next 3 years.
So you can actually figure it might have been 1% per year.
I mean, if that's, yeah,
Roughly.
could be, yeah. I mean, kind of works out that way. But what we're looking at, we can show the numbers on what's happened to the revenue, what happened to the expenses, operations expenses, and then our purchase power are really the two big expenses. Then the debt, kind of its own thing, as we know, it's got its own line. So those are the three chunks that go into our rate. And you'll see what's going on with purchase power, how the price has gone up. We can show that, and that's driving our cost. But then you see our rate line has been $11.54 for 14 years. And you can see our costs going above that. So what we're doing is eating into the reserve fund when that happens, right? When we go cash flow negative, we don't charge enough to meet our expenses, then it just whittles down our reserve.
So what are you into now, about 254?
What's that?
Percentage would be about 254 now if it was like it should have been,
250.
instead of $1.
It was 11 and a half cents, I think, is what the per kilowatt or per 1,000 kilowatt hour rate is.
Residential,
Should be around 13, 14.
For just the,
Yeah, I got it.
I mean, we're not talking about the debt piece, that's kind of separate. That's just the operations and power expense. We'll learn a lot on
It's gonna be
Tuesday.
fun, isn't it?
No.
Don't you just hate when you have to take on somebody else's problem?
I mean, we've been sitting here for 4 years, so I mean, it's hard to blame anybody else. If this is our first year, we could say that. So, I mean, I think we just got caught off guard by some things that were happening, and it's not unusual. We've had these drills before, right, where expenses just blow past what we expected, and we got to react. So, I'm not going to say it was somebody else's fault.
No.
I think the spirit of
I
this.
know this is gonna come up in another discussion, so I'm gonna leave it alone, but I've got questions.
Sure, that's what Tuesday's for. We'll hopefully answer everybody's questions, and we'll get to a place where we can make some decisions.
I mean, this is a council who's committed to strategic planning. This is a council who's committed to putting in good processes moving forward. And I think that's the spirit of how we should kind of think of this.
And I don't have negative questions, by the way.
That's a great point. I think what we learned through this is how we should, first of all, look at rates annually. We put that, we talked about that in the water. We need to do that on every utility in November at the latest. Have that conversation, bake in the inflation, automatic inflation, that we did for water, and then figure out based on what our projections are, what that, what the rate needs to go to. And you'd look at it, you'd break it out by what's our purchase power piece gonna go, and that has to do with the contracts. That's gonna drive a certain cents per kilowatt hour. I think right now it's about 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So we can bake that in and say, well, here's what our operating expenses look like they're gonna be for next year. Well, that's gonna drive 7 cents to cover that based on our projected kilowatt hour usage. Then our debt's the other piece. Well, how much debt? And, we plan to break that out into its own line item like we did, on water. So it'll be its own line item, and then the other two that will be the rate to cover operations and purchase power. And every year we should break them out that way and look at them that way. And then add them up and say, well, here's what the rate needs to be to do that. Hopefully we can whittle out some expenses on the operations side, get better contracts, ideally in the purchase power, and, hold those as low as possible. So, to your point, I do think we're gonna have some better processes.
Are we gonna be able to set it so it would work for a period of time, like a 3-year or 5-year period?
That's what
And
discussion.
automatically do
Yeah.
it by itself?
Well, all you can do is estimate what your expenses are gonna be. And you can put a plan together on what, based on that, and if they go above that, you need to have you're gonna have to rework your plan.
You have to take that as it comes.
Yeah, and that's part of what's going on, is like, we didn't forecast some of the
If
increases,
we're
and now
able
we
to
gotta catch
establish
up.
something that would work for us for 5 years, unless that one particular thing's happened, you have to raise it 1% or 0.5%.
Yeah. So we'll get it figured out. It's just not gonna be easy or pleasant on anybody. Friday, 7:30 a.m., this Friday, 7:30 a.m., second floor City Hall.
Community Development Board.
We're between meetings. Our next meeting is this Monday, the 24th, second for City Hall, 4 o'clock.
Public Safety, Susan.
We have not met. Our next meeting is July 9th at 4 o'clock.
Public Works, Julie.
Yeah, we met on the 13th. The new water line on High Street between 2nd and 3rd Street has been put in service, and the old line has been severed. Public Works will be repairing the street crossing at 3rd and High this summer, where they had to dig it up. October lead line inventory is looming, and they've got about 80% of it completed already. 20% will be the hardest part. Orchard Lane box culvert is mostly complete. The handrail has been ordered, so that will be put up as soon as it comes in. Citywide cleanup was well attended. They started with 7 general and 5 metal dumpsters, and they had to bring in 3 additional dumpsters, which is amazing because right after the citywide garage sale, they still had a lot of stuff. Anyway, Public Work has begun summer street repairs. In July, micro sealing will be done in the parking lot and access road at the Public Works building. This is a new technique to Baldwin, so they're gonna do it out there to see how the product holds up to the weather and it's all sand and that kind of thing before they put it on the streets. The pool is up and running. The rec took over May 27th and there's no issues reported at this time. Downtown hanging flowers look great. Dwight West is in charge of their care this summer. And at this point, I'd also like to thank the master gardeners and everyone that works so hard to keep Baldwin looking beautiful with all the flowers. New generation, continuing fabricating the fuel lines in the basement. Both exhaust systems were completed. Both radiators were installed on the pad and bolted down. Mid-States contractors continue to run conduit and mount motor controls and breaker boxes. Foley Caterpillar was on site to change the oil and oil filters in the engines. A new substation, the SPPAQ application that was applied for has been approved with no further studies required. And our next meeting is July 11th at 9 o'clock.
Thanks, Scott.
We have not met since the last meeting, and TBD on our, I'm going to mention the July 9th.
Yeah, I was going to.
What date,
I got it written down.
what date did you say?
We don't have another.
No, for the meeting.
Oh, I have two of them all now.
He's got a couple meetings I was asking about.
For the special meeting?
Yes.
You have what?
I'll announce them when we get to the mayor council comments. Glenn, do you guys have staff? Any more comments?
No.
Work session, June 25th at 7 PM. That's on the electricity that Scott went over today at the PD. And then work session, July 9th at the PD on the budget. So July 9th will be kind of the kickoff for the council on the budget. So unfortunately, next 3 Tuesdays. Any other council comments?
Said July 9th.
Yeah. And then we need 2 executive sessions tonight. First one will be on KMEA contract presentation. So I'll entertain a motion for that. How long do we need for that presentation?
30 minutes.
And who all needs to be into that? Names, so I can write them down or whoever. Besides the council. Can I get your name so we can make it in the motion?
Neil Daney.
Neil
Neil Daney with King.
Daney. And Jeff, are you coming in there? And Glenn? Anybody else from city staff? Dakota? You have to be in there. Okay.
I move we adjourn to executive session for a KME contract presentation with Neil Daney, City Attorney Dakota Loomis, City Administrator Glenn Rodden, Council and Mayor Jeff Winkler. 7:22, we'll be back at 7:52 p.m.
Second.
Second.
Move in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes, we're in executive session.
You guys gonna go at it?
Call the meeting back into order at 7:52. I'll entertain another motion to go into executive session for attorney-client privilege for 30 minutes with the council, Dakota, and Mike.
I move we go into executive session for attorney-client privilege, council, mayor, city attorney, city administrator, if I'm wrong. At, call it 7:53, be back at 8:23.
Then moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Go on, man.
Passing the marble.
I'll need a motion to go back into executive session for 10 more minutes.
I move to go back into executive session with the same parties at 8:24 and return at 8:34.
Second.
Move the second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're in executive. things set up.
That's not right.
No. Last time we had executive session.
Call the meeting back into order. It's whatever, 8:34. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm going to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes, we're adjourned.